Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Game Changer. I'm Maryam Zia. Tonight we will unravel the challenges that lie ahead for the upcoming government. Of course, when we talk about Pakistan's economic challenges, around 40% of population lives below poverty line as of now. And when we talk about different challenges, one of the key challenges is the deal that is going to be taking place with IMF, the negotiations that will be taking place, and how the policies are going to be impacting the common man. We will be discussing in today's program. We will also be talking about privatization and the role of SIFC in today's program. To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by Dr. Hassan Daud, who is former CEO KP Board of Investment. Welcome to the program. We're also joined by Mr. Muhammd Abdullah, who is Urban Development Specialist. Welcome to the program. And we're joined online by Dr. Hasnain Javed, who is economist. Welcome to the program. Dr. Daud, let me start with you. Of course, with the evolving scenario and political situation, of course, we are going to be having an incumbent government. In your opinion, what are going to be key challenges that the government should be focusing on in the first 100 days?
Well, I think the challenges are several, and using your platform, I would like to congratulate all the winners of the recent elections, and I hope that a formidable government is set up in coming days, and because the challenges are far and beyond the capacity of one political party. And these challenges, not just economic but geopolitical, also these challenges are from the front of bringing stability to not just the fractured economy, but also to the fractured social imbalance that we have. We see a lot of noise, and sometimes such noise and sometimes such issues are also a roadblock towards bringing in investment, because our country needs investment. So for me, I think the number one challenge for the newly elected members of the parliament, and also later the government, would be to bring political stability in this country. Following to that would be the economic stability and important reforms that would be required, and reforms, bringing in change, and then transition between agreeing to those changes and then implementing those reforms would be a cumbersome task. So I think the inclusive development aspect and the inclusive agenda that the political parties have given in their manifestos, for them to achieve all this, I think all of us, all stakeholders, including SIFC, will have to sit together, craft policies and way forward for not just for the economists but also people in the private sector, so that the business can actually flourish.
And talking about businesses, Mr. Abdullah, since you are urban development specialist and real estate specialist as well, so when we talk about retaining capital within the country, that remains a significant issue when we talk about a lot of investors moving to Dubai real estate for investments. How do you think the government should be tackling this issue, and how big of a challenge is this?
That's a very important and urgent issue nowadays. We should make policies and give them an incentive so that they should invest here. There is no other way to control them. The investment is always, and investor is always doing the business for the purpose of the business. So we should make a policies and rules regulations should be which are assisting, supporting and facilitating to the product. That is the fundamental requirements, and all regulatory affairs should be in a way that the product ultimately should succeed. That is the method.
Of course. So, Dr. Hassan, when we talk about providing incentives to businesses and for attracting, of course, foreign direct investments within Pakistan, in your opinion, what kind of incentives should be given to, specifically when we talk about these investors or these business tycoons moving their capital to countries like Dubai and, of course, Middle East? How do you think government should be addressing these issues in the first 100 days when they are creating their economic agenda?
Thank you very much, Maryam. First of all, I would I just wanted to say first a few things. Like, there would be no honeymoon period for the upcoming government. And let me tell you, for the upcoming government, the government has to continue to take step which is anti-populist in nature. That is very much important. No popular in nature, they cannot go a populist approach. So they cannot give any ease to the people, because the subsidies on the gas, subsidies on petroleum, subsidies on anything, and also resume exchange rate between the open market and the interbank market. And they cannot manipulate anything at all, and the reduced expense and balance burden which under the deficit of the program. The second most important thing is the new government must keep politics separate from economics. So when I say they must have to keep politics separate from the economics, they must have to give the certain just two areas separate from everything. They must have to take out the agriculture and real estate out of the tax allocation. So they must be completely tax holiday free areas, because have you seen that in 1970 there was a Great Depression in the America, and they take all of the economic escalation just because of the real estate and the whole of the industry, the construction departments, because the 40 plus areas are interlinked with the real estate. So there must not be any of the tax invasion on that. And second most important thing is agriculture. Now let me focus on the real estate, because the EU Tax Observatory report in 2022. State has Pakistani have invested 10.6 billion in Dubai and real estate, ranking them as third largest investor in the Gulf city. So what you have done, like in the last government in 2018, they have given the full year of the holiday in the real estate business, and your real estate business is being flourished like the way it should be. And then and you have seen that the Indian investor lead Dubai real estate investor in 20.8. And then there is a second with the Britain is 14.7. For that reason, I just wanted to say that the Dubai is now the charming market for every investor. Now try to understand, whosoever the overseas Pakistanis, 90 lakh plus, or nearly about the 10 million Pakistanis are overseas. So starting from the lowest category to the highest category, they just wanted to have a house. So houses from the 5 marlas to 10 marlas to canal to everything. If I convert it into the square feet, that's the different matter. But they invest as much as can. I mean, from the DHA to barriers, so whatever you just wanted to say, they just invest in real estate. So I know this is a casino economy, but they invest highly on that. So in that area, when you close that gate of the investment, your investment would be locked, and we have just pushback from the remittances in that way. So we have to make a policy on that matter.
Of course, there's need for policy as well, Dr. Hasnain. But let me come to Dr. Daud. When we talk about different concerns, and specifically in current scenario, one of the key issues is the concerns of currency traders as well. What measures should be taken to, of course, stabilize the currency in the first 15 days or so that there is, of course, that confidence of investors coming back and bringing capital back to the country?
Yeah, wonderful question. But before I answer that question, I would like to also address some of the points that were highlighted earlier, because your earlier question relates to almost everything that we will discuss.
Right.
And I've been saying this all along, that three things do not have boundaries now. One is, of course, knowledge. You can use computer, Google, everything that you want to know about anyone or anything. Similarly, there is no boundary for human resource. Wherever there is enabling environment, the human resource will find it attractive and move to that. And same goes for investment. Wherever there is an enabling environment, the flight of capital will happen. So what are we looking at? What we are looking at, perhaps learning from the best case scenario. We should learn from Dubai.
True.
They have created a narrative. Everyone
That
is willing.
conducive environment for the
Yes, of
businesses.
course. And also not just the environment part is important, the regulatory framework which Hasnain referred to is also important, but also building a right kind of narrative. You can't just put news about infights and political agendas and distributions and destructions around that. I think you need to talk about positivity within the society, because there is huge potential, large size population, younger population, natural resources, and of course we have a population which is good in understanding technology also. So these aspects is wonderful. So I think instead of worrying about and being concerned about the flight of capital, what we should be concerned, and the question now which you referred to was about the capital market also. But I think we should be concerned about not the just flight of capital or the legitimate flight of capital, because investors look for opportunity outside.
True.
Even Pakistan. So for example, the foreign direct investment coming in Pakistan is good to have. We should be concerned about the flight of capital which is illicit and which is not as per the regulatory framework of Pakistan.
Unregulated.
Yes. So for that, I think the currency market is also important. The stabilization of currency is naturally an important aspect, and when you look at the concerns that investors have, and when they do not want to invest in a country, one of the reason is stability or non-stability within the political framework, and also for the currency, because when they invest and make long term plan, they look at how the currency, the local currency vis-a-vis the dollar would or the reserve currency would behave. And if it is not stable, I think they cannot make their long term plan. They cannot make what sort of gains in response to investment will come. So therefore, the role of the government in this aspect is extremely important. And besides the role of the government, I think role of FBR, role of State Bank, role of the policing role of some of the other agencies that we have is extremely important. And for that, we should also craft framework which is not hostile, because if you want to sustain investment within Pakistan, you need to have policies, and those policies should address the concern of flight of capital, it should concern
and long-term policies,
and of course long-term. So for that, and again Hasnain highlighted a very important point. For me, politics is now part of economics. You do not have good politics within your country, your economy will not get better. The narrative around that economy will not get better. So I think all of this and some of the other aspects I would like to discuss later. What are the things, because we need to unlearn the practices that we have done in the last so many years. We need
3-4 decades.
We can use technology for that, I think.
Of course, that's a very important point. But Mr. Abdullah, one of the key challenges for the new government remains to tackle the issue of budget deficits and how to plan the strategies to reduce the expenses as well. What strategies do you think they should be adopting in that regard?
I think that for the growth, you have to be expense more, not reduce the budget. That's my point of view. But when you will go for the growth, the little more expense will earn more revenue. That should be the methodology. Locally, the environment which Mr. Bhatt and Mr. Hasnain both intimated, that the political stability and the security stability to the public who are investing here, and then the growth which they have to be gained at least at their percentage 8 to 10% annually. If it is not growing, so nobody will invest. So other way, the regulatory affairs should be conducive to the product development. It should not be hindrance in the way. This is the major area. Last 30 years in this business, from the regulatory side also and from the development side also. I have seen a lot of problems during that period, and we have to be addressed, and we address together, the public sector and private sector. Secondly, the decision making should always come from the stakeholders. It should not come from the public sector staffing. It should come from the stakeholders who are dealing with the products at the ground. Thirdly, this is very important, which I want to point out, that at local level or at a bottom, at a ground, there are activities. All activities are called economic activities, maybe a service, a product development, agriculture or industry, whatever. So when these activities proceed and grow, three outcomes come. One, product development product come. Number two, the employment generations. Number three, the revenue oblique service comes. When these three activities outcomes come in the market, you will have the say that FBR issues, that taxing and government fund will come. So the core pivot area is the activity. The better, the qualitative and quantitative is the activity, your three outcomes will be better and your taxing will be better. So the public sector role is to assist, facilitate and support that activity. That's what we have to do, and make all the rules, regulations which are ultimately supporting the products, and that product will generate the revenue, and revenue will generate the taxes, and taxes will
snowball effect, then it will,
effect.
of course. So Dr. Hassan, I want to come to the point that you earlier mentioned about of course, the political considerations should not be considered while making decisions, and economic decisions should be, of course, considered by the incoming government. So how do you think that the government should be taking these steps, especially while negotiations are going to be taking place with IMF as well?
See, one part is to the IMF. You cannot do anything. You cannot go for the subsidies on the gas. You cannot give the subsidies on the petroleum. You cannot give the to resume the exchange rate. They are very right, and we have to follow. And we are going for the 24th review. And we need IMF at any cost. Whosoever the economist says that we don't need IMF, I think they must have to rethink and unlearn their ideology, because we need. Pragmatically, we need IMF, and we are quite near to complete our standby agreement. Now, the second important point is that the certain things we can't do, that is the structural things which is being taken by care by IMF. The second important thing is, what about the special economic zones? Why our policies are not focusing on that? We have the 9 economic zone. Dr. Daud knows that. We have done a lot well in 2013 to 2015. We have all the pre-feasibility, feasibility for every industry, hospitality industry, and then we must have, and there is litigations, and there are so many articles that we can give the tax holiday. And do you know that the Chinese cannot hold the property? I mean, they can just lease the property. They cannot hold the property. They cannot own the property. Here we have the idea to hold the property to Chinese society, housing societies, industries. They can come here and establish their industry over here, so that they can get the ownership. So we need to have the make the policy for the special economic zone. Now, need to understand that why our own investor goes rather to in special economic zone in Pakistan from the Rashakai, because Dr. Daud knows that, and from the Bostan to other areas for about non-economic zone. So you can see that with at least 146 billion in the foreign wealth invested, and the Dubai property market is now world largest offshore in investment market of the market for the foreign investor, and it is now twice as large as London real estate market in terms of wealth invested by the foreign through the shell companies. And it is easy to do trade from the Dubai, since there is no problem with opening accounts for export or import. So this is, I always ask that the people like Daud, Dr. Daud, why don't you put in the board of investment so that they can give the ease in his area when he was the CEO?
Let me take the same question to Dr. Daud. Right. Dr. Daud, what's your take on Dr. Hasnain's questions? And also, I want you to tell us about the challenges that the government is going to be facing while securing significant inflows from the friendly countries.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank Hasnain for recommending me, but I do not accept the offer, and perhaps later when I see, because working as a scholar and in universities you can contribute more. And on some of the aspect, the challenges to our economy are very clear. They are fundamental issues in our economy, and those issues can only be addressed when you show pragmatism while remaining realistic. What are the issues we need to first identify? So the first issue we've discussed, political, we need to create political harmony on certain issues. I mean, every political party has to be different, and that's the beauty about democracy. But then in terms of economic agenda, in terms of long term planning, I think we need to harmonize on that. The second aspect is on the revenue generation, because we also need to again look at how these reforms that we've been hearing for so many years, and IMF has been indicating that, whether those reforms are taken in haste or is this done incrementally, because sometimes you do things because somebody tells you to do and you do it in a manner which is not good. The reforms are welcome, but how do you take those steps is also equally important. And for that to happen, you have to consult the business people, or everyone in the, even the academia perhaps, and look at.
And do you think SIFC is going to be playing a vital role in that regard?
I think, I mean, it's not even a question. I mean, they should play a vital role. They should actually have people who have experience enough to understand, not just in terms of giving them jobs, but actually consulting them. And then again, lastly, the other two issues is perhaps the agriculture sector. Our productivity is miserably low, and then again we are talking about technology, we are talking about new ideas, and I think for that agriculture productivity and the overall productivity of this country has to get better. I think the
and I want to talk about agricultural productivity, that what kind of policies should be taken, what kind of measures should be taken by government when we talk about preventing the shortage of vital goods for the common public.
I add on first, Mr. Daud said that the pragmatism words. So that's the if you go back and 50 years before, Singapore take the same policy that they took the decisions on merit, then the pragmatism, and the last one, which is very hard, is the honesty. These three items, MPH play the role in their country, and they were from slum to a world's most sustainable and the beautiful city of the world. Now come to the agriculture sides. So we have to work on the soil nutritions. First of all, our agriculturist who is at the ground, he did not have the knowledge about soil nutrition, so the soil testing and the water quality and all those things. Then after soil nutritions, the crop nutritions, that's what type of the fertilizing, what type of the pesticide, and then the harvesting, and then value additions to the products. So there is a potential that currently we are under productions than the rest of the developed countries are maybe.
So there is a negative growth rate when we talk about 2023. So what kind of policies or measures should be taken by the new government to address that significant issue?
Actually, same as we were discussing for the other developments, that's the outcome of the agriculture is also their product, and to product whatever is the required through the policies, that may be the soil irrigation systems, harvesting system, machinery, fertilizing, then marketing, all those supports required from the policy point of view. And for those policies, for God's sake, involve those people who know those, not sitting in the offices. They have to be assist them, but the policy should come as the SFIC. They should involve also the stakeholders in their programs, so that they should make the policies that what type of the support the agriculture sector or any other sector required.
Right. So, of course, Dr. Sen, when we talk about political instability, that remained a significant issue in year 2023. But as we are moving forward, we are hopeful for, of course, better days. So, how do you think that the new government should be collaborating with friendly countries as well as international communities, and in what sectors can we invite more investments?
Any government, I'm not be the part of any of the government. Any government should have to behave. They must have to think that the economy is the pivot to everything. Now, the uncertainties or the uncertainties to political instability or creating the political instability is against the Pakistan. We are come out of the 4.4 billion of the bankruptcy, near bankruptcy, when it was the foreign reserve was 4.4, and then we came out of it, and we are having the rollovers from the Dubai, we are having the rollovers from China, we are having the rollovers from Dubai, from the Saudi and the other countries. So there are many things. Now, any government must have to think on two areas. So one area I have told you that the IMF structuring process is not in their hand now. IMF is taking care of it. Now they just have to follow all the all the outlines. Now, the second most important thing is they must have to think on the two things, real estate and the agriculture. They must have to focus on the small holders. They must have to give the complete tax holiday to the small holders so that we can develop. And the most important policy for the agriculture is, now do you know that we have the 20% of the export quota for the oranges, for the for all of the fruit products? So we don't have the preservance plant. We don't have the, even China asked us for the 15,000 plus meat products, and we don't have that because of the foot and head injury. So they asked us to give us the boiled meat so that we can have it, because 800 billion plus of a ton of the meat is going from the Belarus. So why not from the Pakistan?
Right.
To make the maximum plant and preservation plant, and try to understand why the people go for Dubai. There is no problem with the opening accounts of export and imports. So we must have to have the policy for the export and imports. And Dubai real estate is a paradise for the making money. So why not here? So Pakistani businessmen and the rich individuals have not only been investing heavily in Dubai real estate, but also establishing export-import trading house. A lot export and trading, import and export trading house. Why not the Ministry of Industries? Why not the Board of Investment? Why not the Ministry of Commerce? Must have to sit together and along with the Foreign Ministry. So we need to resolve these issues as early as possible, because
Right.
SIFC is subject to political stability. And now
Right,
we need
right.
to understand the business
Right, of
community
course, that is
concerns.
very important point, Dr. Hasnain. And Dr. Daud, when we talk about, of course, the role of SIFC and the hopes that are associated with bringing economic stability to the country, when we talk about the significant role by Special Investment Facilitation Council. But I want you to tell us about, of course, the privatization that is going to be taking place under SIFC umbrella. How do you see this is going to be panning out in coming days?
You see, for me, the most important aspect and the most important role of SIFC is to bring all the stakeholders together and tell them what are the national agendas and goals under the leadership of the Prime Minister. So the political government decides what their roadmap is, and in order to implement that roadmap, the role of SIFC along with all the stakeholders, it is important. So when that is done, and how do you look, because if you look at the manifestos and the agenda around privatization is different.
Of course.
So how you converge that?
That's why I'm asking you
Absolutely.
that, of course, different parties have different
Yeah.
agendas when it comes to privatization. Do you think that SIFC is going to be playing an important role in converging those diverging views about this specific issue?
You know, as someone who works on investment and who works and teaches management, I think for me all political leaders have their own manifesto, but all those manifestos are made based on the national agenda. So for each one of them, this country is equally important as perhaps for me, for you, SIFC or anyone else. So first of all, we must consider that. And when we look at manifesto, sometimes political parties make manifestos based on the information that they have and not essentially the true picture of how things would happen. And also, say for example, a political party has privatization in their agenda. Even for that to happen, I think role of SIFC will be important to how to work on that manifesto and how to work on those agendas. Similarly, conversely, if a political party says that we should create employment and not do privatization, for that you can also look at how that effort could be managed, because you cannot go against the state and you cannot go against the country for something, because any political manifesto, any political agenda cannot be bigger than Pakistan, isn't it? So if something is damaging Pakistan economically, that has to be addressed. And the method to address can be different for all political parties. But how you converge them will be the critical role of SIFC, to get the expert, to get the political parties, to get people who perhaps will lose jobs also because of the privatization. So get them on board, talk to them, provide them incentives. You know, for countries where privatization happened, what they do is that they provide them other opportunities to work. Because for example, we talk, let's take PIA as a case. People who work in PIA have accumulated wealth of experience, and that wealth of experience can be used elsewhere, perhaps in a private sector or also in public private partnership projects. So, for me, I think the most important role of SIFC in the next political tenure that we will have is to converge all political parties, create harmony for some of these important policies, reforms and privatization agenda we have. We need to look at where our economy is leaking from, where the money that we generate through taxes, through what we produce and export, where is that, and also look at perhaps in terms of subsidy that Dr. Hasnain spoke about. Are we, because when you talk of economic distribution, the economic distribution of wealth, it has to be in a just manner. So, it should not favor some parties or some industries or some segment of the society. It should flow everyone. And also, for that to happen, some basic requirements have to be met, like the infrastructure has to be there, SEZs perhaps, but you can't just build 4 walls around SEZs and say that this is an SEZ. Reforms again around that. Electricity for, and when I say electricity, it means cheaper, sustainable forms of electricity for the industry. And most importantly, from your program, I request SIFC to urge political leadership, to urge people who are in the industry to make the industrial policy for Pakistan. Unless you do not make the industrial policy for Pakistan, which should run for at least 5 years, you will keep talking of things and having short-term solutions. When the problems are long-term, the solutions can only be long-term.
And when we talk about these industrial solutions, can you tell us what should be the key agenda or key outlines should be part of these, of course, strategies, and what outcome can we expect in 5 years or in 3 years from these strategies?
I think for this, the list is very long. But let me give you just about
basic
five
yes.
recommendations. First, immediately work on these special economic zones we have, provide them utilities, provide them electricity, make roads around them, build a one window operation around them, do the regulatory guillotine work that the Board of Investment has been doing, and set up SEZs which are actually SEZs based on what you have in your competitive economies. You just can't say, as I said, you know, it cannot be a real estate activity. It has to be an industrial activity. Secondly, bring cheaper form of energy, and God has blessed this country through which we can have cheaper form of. You can have hydel, you have sunlight to have renewable sources of energy. Apply that and bring that transition, because today we have labor related restrictions, you know, child labor and all. Tomorrow you will have environmental related restrictions. So, for that transition to happen. Secondly, you should look at, because we have a large size human resource which can work on the services sector. So, improve internet connectivity and provide internet connectivity across Pakistan. Even women in urban centers, you know, young girls like you can go and work outside. But in rural economy, the participation of female resources can actually be enhanced through this services sector, you know, e-commerce and all.
Provide them home-based services.
Fourth, my point, and I am very clear about this, please work on the second stage of CPAC. That is extremely important. Work on the joint working group for agriculture, work on the joint working group of science and technology, and build SEZs which are within that. And my last point, which is very, very important, is when you look at industry, do not benefit certain industry. Have an wholesome agenda, work on which subsidy is working and which subsidy is just benefiting the few. So, based on that, based on national agenda, SIFC and the political government which will come in, and SIFC naturally will work under that, we should look at which industry we should subsidize in short term. You cannot just keep subsidizing because that is hurting your economy.
Very important points, of course, Dr. Daud. But Mr. Abdullah, when we talk about unemployment in the country, and like Dr. Daud also alluded to, the human resource and the youth bulge that we have that could be utilized in these industries by, of course, by having a wholesome approach towards these industries, but we would be needing some kind of skill set to utilize that human resource. In your opinion, what kind of skill set should be focused on by the incoming government to, of course, utilize all these resources towards all these industries that we have?
So, we can divide into a short term and then mid term and the long term. In the short terms, we should focus on that's what we have and how we can utilize them. And in those areas, the agriculture sector need a skill set also, the industrial sector also need a skill set, and the construction industry also need a skill set. In the mid-term, you have to be think over that the young graduates we are in school, colleges and universities to train them on those skills so that market base, IT is most important nowadays, that they should be. And in IT, this is not only the graduations, there are 3 or 4 types of the sport required in the IT industry also, and skill set is required. Basically, we are focusing on the graduating of the students. We need the polytechnicals and all those areas where we have to be work much more. And polytechnical sites which giving the training of 6 months, 1 year, 2 years and 3 years after say that grade 10 or grade 12, that's most important area. And those people can play a vital role. We have say that 2 of every young population of 2 of the 3 is less than age of 30. So that's your potential also. And this HR can play a big role. That we have to be, as Dr. Daud is in the academia also, that's now we focus that we multiply the, maybe make a second shift in the universities, make more graduates, and for that you have to be invest on the faculty. So we should compete with the international. So that will investment will support our in IT industry. In agriculture, we need that the young guys who can understand that what is the soil nutrition and harvesting and crop production, plant productions, in those areas we have to be work. Construction industries, we don't have skilled workers. So there is the roofing, ceiling, construction, materials, mechanics, and even the farm machinery and all those areas we need the workers. And at least make it like that. It should be 3/4 of the workers and 1/4 are the strategic or intellectual planning sites. Then we will go.
Of course. And Dr. Hasnain, when we talk about informal economy, that remains a significant challenge of Pakistan's economic challenges, of course. What do you suggest to the incoming government? What kind of strategies should be taken or adopted to address this specific issue?
They have to manage, if they want to evaluate our money not to depreciate, and if they want to manage the dollar, they don't want to smuggle the dollar, and elsewhere they have to make the border management in the system. So I have given this framework to the government, that border management system where the business must be involved, the trade must be involved, and then we must have to negotiate in this matter, and we must have to from generic to specific. Now, as we are generic to specific, as I told you, the real estate and the agriculture, and second most important to me is like we must have to focus on the taxation area from the direct tax to indirect tax. As you know that 902 billion we need to give this year, and total of the $77.7 billion we need to go send it back. I mean in the debt slot. So altogether, Pakistan need to understand now kind of the property why Pakistan goes towards the casino economy, and they are not going for the production side. They are not going for the input over output equals to productivity. The productivity is the most important and fundamental. No any government is making the cottage industry or the structure industry or the product industry or the service industry. So everywhere where everybody goes into the different ways. So agriculture, the seed technology, plant energy and agriculture mechanization, and they can adopt from China. China is way too good in the agriculture mechanization. They must have to focus on it. So as far as the real estate part, why they are moving to it, let me give you the 2 points, 2 prong points. The properties that are very best in the rental income, that's why they are going there, such as holiday rental, which is like short-term leasing. These properties are finished and rented out weekly and monthly, and then tend to give about 20% to the 25% higher return than renting them out for the long term. So that's why all of the Pakistani is moving towards the Dubai, and this is just not Dubai. All of you haven't seen the Panamas and other things. There are a lot many other things.
Right.
There are a lot of areas, but now today we are focusing on Dubai. But what the government should do is very much important. To reserve this trend and retain investment within Pakistan, concentrate efforts are needed to multiple front, and addressing the root cause driving the exodus in the imperative of the step for economic losses and restoring the economic confidence, tackling inflation, bolstering the exports, and the critical steps that are needed to be taken is additional trusting and environment producing, and the entrepreneurship is most important. Let me tell you, the 10% of the total GDP is not the
Right.
private partnership. So Dr. Daud is very much right. We must have to facilitate the privatization, and special economic zone is costing us
Of course, right.
2.6 trillion of the mega loss. So we don't have to deteriorate, we don't have to eliminate all the
Right. Thank you very much, Dr.
Hasnain.
Hasnain. Unfortunately, we are running out of time and the challenges are huge. We, of course, appreciate your input, and thank you very much, Dr. Daud, Hassan Daudbat, for your valuable input. Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah, for your valuable input in the program. Of course, the number one challenge that the new government is going to be facing is to put economy back on track. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.